Hello and thank you for joining us on the news on NTA International. I am Lami Ali. First, let's get the headlines.
Nigeria has survived many crises before and came out stronger. I am confident that by God's grace, we shall overcome this one and emerge stronger and more purposeful.
As Nigeria marks 2020 Democracy Day, President Buhari acknowledges resilience of Nigerians in upholding democratic tenets.
It is only right that Chief MKO Abiola, a great lover of sports, a man who understood the true impact and unifying power of sports, be placed at the very center where people gather together, discard their differences.
Moshood Abiola National Stadium, Abuja, unveiled in honor of winner of June 12 annulled presidential election. And federal government to roll out 774,000 jobs to mitigate COVID-19 impact. Happy Democracy Day and thank you for joining us. President Muhammadu Buhari has acknowledged the resilience of Nigerians in upholding the democratic tenets. The president was speaking in a broadcast to mark Democracy Day. State House correspondent Jide Onifade tells us more.
It is 1 year now that President Muhammadu Buhari at the maiden June 12 Democracy Day promised to frontally address the nation's daunting challenges, especially insecurity, the economy and corruption. On this day of another celebration of democracy in the country, the president is here giving account of those promises he made.
We have recorded notable achievements in the course of implementing our 9 priority objectives. Government has continued to implement accountability and transparent policies through the Open Government Partnership and the Transparency Portal on financial transactions. Similarly, we have strengthened auditing and accountability mechanisms so as to ensure that rules and regulations are followed strictly. Anti-corruption agencies have secured more than 1,400 convictions and also recovered funds in excess of 800 billion naira. These monies are being plowed into development and infrastructure projects.
We are establishing a solid foundation for future success, the president says, stressing that the objectives of his administration have remained to stabilize the microeconomy, achieve agricultural and food security, ensure energy sufficiency in power and petroleum products, and develop infrastructure, as well as fight corruption and improve governance.
Our efforts on growing non-oil exports have started to yield some results. For instance, in the first year, our revenue from cocoa and sesame seed increased by $79.4 million United States dollars and $153 million United States dollars.
The president is elated that work has commenced on his directive on the employment of 774,000 Nigerian youths. As the president explains, these youths will be engaged in special public works program aimed at cushioning the effect of economic downturn. On COVID-19 pandemic, President Buhari says he is confident that the steps being taken by the Presidential Task Force would result in flattening the curve, while imploring investors, researchers and scientists to come up with solutions to cure COVID-19. The president says government is determined to turn the challenge to motivation by building a nationwide public health care system that will take care of present and any future outbreak.
Humanity and indeed democracy is under the threat of COVID-19. Nigeria has survived many crises before and came out stronger. I am confident that by God's grace, we shall overcome this one and emerge stronger and more purposeful.
The president also dedicates most part of his broadcast to the nation's National Assembly for their cooperation, the youth population, women and people living with disabilities, as well as the media, and not forgetting the military and other security agencies.
I salute your courage, enterprise, and resilience, as well as your contributions to national development.
President Muhammadu Buhari promises to uphold the Constitution and protect the lives and property of all Nigerians, stressing that his administration would focus on ensuring that the rule of law prevails. In the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
Meanwhile, in his address to Nigerians on Democracy Day, President Muhammadu Buhari said the federal government has rolled out special public works to employ 774,000 Nigerians to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on the people. Onangie Fine-Face reports on this and other interventions to create jobs for Nigerians.
As part of the strategy to create jobs in reducing the effect of COVID-19 on our youth, I directed the employment of 774,000 Nigerians. These youth will be engaged in special public works program aimed at cushioning the effects of economic downturn.
8 states of Edo, Katsina, Jigawa, Ebonyi, Borno, Kwara, Adamawa and Ekiti participated in the pilot scheme of the Special Public Works Program with 1,000 beneficiaries drawn from 5 local government areas in each state. Success in the pilot scheme informed President Buhari's directive to extend the scheme to all 774 local government areas of the country. Now, 54 billion naira is earmarked for this program, which is considered the single largest federal government intervention to create jobs in Nigeria. In addition, there is a basic national open apprenticeship scheme to train and provide startup materials for thousands of Nigerians.
We have received the money to pay these trainees and trainers for the period of 3 months. We have the money, and that's the reason why I want to call on all Nigerians to go to our various state offices so that they can collect our form, fill it, so that they can be engaged.
38,700 Nigerians have benefited so far, while applications for a new phase are ongoing in Abuja. Onangie Fine-Face, NTA News.
In this part of activities marking this year's Democracy Day in Nigeria, the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, Abuja, has been unveiled. The Abuja National Stadium was renamed after the winner of annulled June 12, 1993 presidential election, MQ Abiola, by President Muhammadu Buhari, to honor the late politician who contributed to the development of sports in the country. Minister of the FCT, Muhammad Musa Bello, represented President Muhammadu Buhari as the unveiling of the stadium.
It's a signpost of the celebration of Nigeria's democracy. It also recognizes the life of a great patriot in our political and national experience. Like the person we are honoring today, Bashorun MKO Abiola, President Muhammadu Buhari places a high premium on sports development as a result of his appreciation of the importance of sports to national development and its ability to serve as a rallying point for all.
This government of President Muhammadu Buhari is committed to returning Nigeria to the glory days of sports, committed to bringing back our sport infrastructures and also encouraging grassroots sports development.
We also give thanks to the Commander-in-Chief and President of the Federal Republic, Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, to the people and friends of Nigeria, to those who believe in the promise of this land. On this date in 1993, we proved that the nation united and indivisible is way stronger than its parts.
Life is gradually coming back to the renamed Moshood Abiola National Stadium, Abuja, following its official unveiling on Democracy Day. Tamara Ibi was there for NTA News.
It's 1 year the National Stadium Abuja was renamed after late MKO Abiola for his contributions to sports development by President Muhammadu Buhari. The identity of this national monument is in its signage as Moshood Abiola National Stadium. The unveiling of the signage, which was done by President Muhammadu Buhari, represented by FCT Minister Mohammed Musa Bello, was witnessed by Youth and Sports Minister Sunday Dare and other top government functionaries.
It is only right that Chief MKO Abiola, a great lover of sports, a man who understood the true impact and unifying power of sports, be placed at the very center where people gather together, discard their differences, and become one as fans in the sporting arena.
So the pitch will come back very soon. But you can also see that this stadium is functional. 75%, 80% functional. The grass does not represent functionality. The swimming pool is working, the indoor sports all are working. The 60,000 seats in the stadium are FIFA compliant. The tracks are okay. So we'll get there very soon.
You know, this is a man that has committed a lot of his resources to the development of sport in this country. And beside that, he was a man that laid down his life for the democracy we are all enjoying today. So I want to thank Mr. President and salute his courage.
This is so significant that there's no other way to honor him than to name this landmark, which is actually at the gate of Abuja, which is actually at the entrance of the capital territory of Abuja after this Nigerian. So we should be extremely grateful to President Muhammadu Buhari for doing this.
It was a feeling of fulfillment for the Abiola family, who commended President Muhammadu Buhari for his recognition of the late pillar of sports in Africa.
It's unfortunate that we spent 27 years to get this far, 25 years to get the recognition, 27 years to get this far, but it's never late. Justice has been done, and that's what is more important.
It is believed that the renaming of this national monument after the late Moshood Abiola will further spur others to contribute to different aspects of national development. From the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, Abuja, Tamara Ebiwe, NTA News.
And the All Progressives Congress has congratulated Nigerians on the occasion of the 2020 Democracy Day. A statement by the party's National Publicity Secretary, Larry Isaonilu, said the declaration of June 12 as Nigeria's Democracy Day by the APC-led federal government has further cemented the credentials of President Muhammadu Buhari as a true and genuine Democrat by recognizing and appreciating the sacrifices of many Nigerians in the enthronement of democracy in the country, and the ultimate price paid by the presumed winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential election, Chief Moshood Abiola. In the meantime, President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, has felicitated with Nigerians on this year's Democracy Day, the second time it is being celebrated on June 12. The President of the Senate said June 12 has become a metaphor in Nigeria for free, fair and credible elections. Similarly, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, has said since 1999, Nigeria has come a long way in democratic practice, noting that the country's system is growing by the day. In a statement by his special advisor on media and publicity, Lanre Lasisi, the Speaker said he believes Nigeria has learned a lot in the last 21 years of uninterrupted democracy, urging Nigerians to remain united in the face of daunting challenges facing the country. And I'm now being joined in the studio by Ofem Oboma, a public affairs analyst, to further discuss 21 years of Nigeria's democracy. Mr. Oboma, you're most welcome to our studio.
Thank you very much.
Now, it's been 21 years of democracy in Nigeria, and it's quite a milestone. Now, give us your assessment of how the journey has been so far.
Thank you. I want to say that in 1999, when we came into democracy, we are just coming out from a prolonged military rule, and it was received with a lot of enthusiasm by political gladiators, most of them very experienced, some with or without no experience at all. But it was received with a lot of expectations. And we started enjoying some level of benefits of democracy at the time. Of course, coming out from lockdown on media houses, as it were at the time under the military rule, we were beginning to enjoy freedom of expression, and that took us into where we are now. To a very large extent, we might not say we are there, but democracy has been seen to have come to stay with us. So institutional build-up is developing. Political awareness, capacity building is also going on within the political circle. We're also trying to build up the institutions, and importantly, the constitution that was handed over to us is still under scrutiny. We're trying to build it up because democracy is about the constitution. The constitution is the Bible of the democracy. So once the constitution is right, all the institutions that are functioning under democracy will also be strengthened.
Now, would you subscribe to the fact that the strengthening of the democratic institutions, as you rightly said, have impacted on the democratic process in Nigeria? That is looking at the bigger picture.
No, we cannot say it's perfect. It's evolving, actually. It is evolving because, like I've said, coming from where we were to where we are, 21 years, that's quite some time, but cannot be said to be enough to build up a decade institutions. So we are building the institutions, and you can see when democracy is about three arms of government working together to deliver on the benefit of democracy: the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. Before now, of course, you can imagine in the first 1999 dispensation, the first dispensation, you discover that the leadership turnover was very high in the National Assembly.
All right, now we want you to tell us what areas do we need to improve on to further strengthen the democratic process?
Yeah, you see, President Muhammadu Buhari, to some extent, has made very good use of his executive orders. And you can see to some extent that democracy is now returning to the grassroots, because the level at the grassroots, which is the local government level, has been strengthened by the presidential executive orders. And now, from that point, you now get to the state level. You discover that state institutions are also getting stronger to be able to resist federal institutions. And the federal institutions, too, are also getting stronger to be able to ensure there is separation of power existing within the system. So to an extent, democracy is getting its roots. And like I've said, it takes the separation of power to make the democracy functional.
We thank you very much, Mr. Oboma. We have very little time. We thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you.
Now, I've been speaking with a public affairs analyst, Mr. Ofem Oboma, sharing his thoughts with us on Nigeria's journey in democracy so far. You're still watching the news on NTA International. More stories after the break.
Shegun. Alpha, say tomorrow still day on.
What's your tomorrow?
Community meeting now.
You know they here, Abi?
Now beggy. See, if we meet for my house, inside parlor, then go no.
This COVID-19 is not a child's play.
If you want to elect a new secretary, we fit to
do one for WhatsApp, or for Skype, or even on Zoom. Or we just wait.
I will not negotiate
this social distancing. It is non-negotiable.
Not every infected person shows symptoms, but every infected person is contagious. Avoid large gatherings and self-isolate if you think you might have come in contact with a carrier. Your safety and the safety of others is in your hands.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MACA.
Thank you for staying tuned. Now, here is a reminder that the President's Democracy Day broadcast will be repeated at 10 o'clock local time tonight. All NTA stations are hooked up for the broadcast. In a special documentary on President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, real and verifiable achievements will also be transmitted on the network service of the NTA on Sunday, the 14th June at 7 o'clock in the evening. All NTA stations are also advised to hook up for the program. Now, moving on, election is the instrument that facilitates and shapes democracy. Nigeria, though has had experience years of military interregnum, or intervention rather, has tooled its governance process through democratic institutions. Debola Brookston Sunday takes a look at the evolution of elections in Nigeria.
Nigeria is a federal republic composed of 36 states and a capital territory, with an elected president and a bicameral legislature. Democracy, observers say, is underpinned by three essential components: a healthy competition among political parties, political participation by the populace in electing their leaders, and a credible electoral process conducted by an umpire, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The first general election in Nigeria was held in 1947, the first and only election to be conducted under the 1945 Constitution. The Second Republic, which became the main testing ground, brought with it a constitution that provided for various political parties. It gave room for 5 political parties to jostle for positions. In 1993, the then military government headed by General Ibrahim Babangida introduced two-party system, National Republican Convention, NRC, and the Social Democratic Party, SDP, that fielded the late MKO Abiola. In June that year, Nigerians went to the poll to actualize the democratic process. From 1999 till date, Nigeria has adopted several methods of election, such as open and closed ballot systems.
What I find us doing is as it comes, we look at what is suitable for us and we do it. There are a couple of other things that has not been done, which of course it has to do with technology and getting some certain statistics right.
INEC is thinking about electronic voting. The Electoral Act provides that any voter who is interested in voting will go to a particular polling unit, obtain that voting ballot paper, and then vote. Perhaps when the laws are tinkered with, we can think about electronic voting.
92, 93. In the present and enduring interest in a credible political and electoral process in Nigeria, analysts say Nigerians should support managers of its electoral system in order to churn out the best. Adebola Brookston Sunday, NTA News.
Now, Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki and 2 others aspiring to participate in the June 22nd APC Edo governorship primaries have been disqualified from participating in the exercise. The APC Edo 2020 Governorship Screening Committee said those disqualified failed to meet the party's requirements. Salihu Abdullahi reports.
Incumbent Governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki, Chris Ogewonye, and Matthew Iduroyekenwe have been disqualified. The APC governorship primary will now be a contest among Eze Yamo, Pius Odubo, and Osaro Obazi. Chairman of APC Edo Governorship Screening Committee, Professor Jonathan Ayuba, said those disqualified did not meet the party's requirements due to disparity in their documents submitted.
Were deemed eligible to participate, and 3 were deemed uneligible to participate. So the details, we received all the documents of those processes, and we had to rely on the party constitution because it's stated clearly that all remedies should be carried through party process and party machineries. Most of these instances we give opportunity for if there are evidences that such has been done which has not been supplied. And this is one of the reasons that we delayed, because there are certain documents that we requested, not even under oath. We wanted to give the opportunity that it should be supplied. Up to this afternoon, none of the document has been returned to us. So our decisions are based on what has been before us. So all these documents are attached, and all the references and all the authorities as I've cited are also attached.
National Chairman of APC, Adams Oshomole, received the report and urged those affected to explore the Screening Appeal Committee.
The Screening Committee report is still subject to the Appeal Committee, and the Appeal Committee will give opportunity to all those who have participated in this exercise to take advantage of the appeal if they have reasons to disagree with the findings of the committee.
Governor Obaseki says he will not appeal his disqualification from contesting the forthcoming election in Edo State, describing the disqualification as unjust. In Abuja, Salihu Abdullahi, NTA News.
Nigeria has continued to record daily increase in the number of coronavirus infections, just as a United States biotech firm announces readiness to test its vaccine against COVID-19 on 30,000 volunteers. Joyce Ometu is here with an update on the global health crisis.
Nigeria on Thursday recorded 681 new infections, which is the highest since inception of COVID-19, as announced by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. With the latest updates, the total number of infected people in the country has risen to 14,554, out of which 4,494 persons have recovered and 387 deaths recorded in 35 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Lagos tops the list of states with the highest cases in Nigeria, with a cumulative total of 6,611 cases, followed by the FCT with 1,097, Kano at 1,048, Ogun 523, while Edo has 490 infections. On the African continent, record published by Worldometer indicates that there are 221,086 confirmed COVID-19 cases and 5,916 fatalities. Elsewhere in the world, the European Union's top health official warns that the pandemic is not over yet in Europe. This is coming amid fears of a new surge in infections as EU countries gradually lift restrictions. In another development, a vaccine against COVID-19 developed by the United States National Institutes of Health and a biotech firm, Moderna, will enter the third and final stage of its clinical trial in July. The vaccine, the manufacturer says, will be tested on 30,000 volunteers, with some given the real shot and others a dummy shot. Meanwhile, the number of COVID-19 cases in India has surpassed that of Wuhan, China, where the virus first started. Reports say hospitals in the country are struggling to cope with the number of patients infected, as many are dying without getting treatment. And that's it from here. Many thanks for watching. I am Joyce Ometu.
And that also does it on the news at this time on NTA International. We thank you for watching. Happy Democracy Day and God bless Nigeria.